the Gold Coast and would like to come on down, we're in Building C, room 1.05. I'll put it in the chat box. You'll be able to watch some of those presentations, even if you're not doing your PhD, you can come along and watch those presentations. Stay for morning tea. And if you're only online and you would like to participate, I can share a link with you so you can Zoom in live to those sessions on Thursday or Friday. So if you'd like me to share the link with you to do that, just let me know in the chat box and I'll copy and paste the Zoom link into it and you can come along. Yeah. And in person, even better, if you can come down to campus, that would be great too. It's a really great couple of days and really interesting research that other Southern Cross Uni students are doing. And this is our first time we've been able to do it in 2 years. So it's exciting.
That's really cool. And to have the online as well means lots of people can check in. I think it'd be fabulous to add in, if you can add it to the chat.
I'll add it in anyway. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll add it in anyway. And so everybody's got it then, and you can just join in pretty much whenever you like taking into account there'll be a morning tea and lunch session, but if you kind of do those core hours of mid-morning and mid-afternoon, you'll catch it.
That's great. Nice to see a couple of others, some familiar names coming in too. So go, hi Moses, Michael. I saw Badika come in there too. Hello. Welcome. So you haven't missed anything yet. No, we've just got a couple more people coming in, I think. So
we've got some more training coming up next week too, which has been a really popular workshop that we have run in the past, which is why we've run it again with Dr. Nikki Bursky, who's going to be doing next Thursday. We had to reschedule this one last week too because Nikki was unwell, but it's writing styles for postgrads. And Nikki does a really good job of covering all the writing styles that you may come across, regardless of what postgrad research, what postgrad study you're doing. So if you're doing masters by coursework, she talks about writing critical reports. If you're doing thesis work, she talks about lit reviews and things like that. So that's next Thursday. That one's been advertised. And if you're interested in coming to that, I'll put the link for our website in the chat box as well. And you can go onto the events calendar and that will bring you up the link to register for that. It's next Thursday from 2:30 to 4:30. And I'm just about to set the dates on some Microsoft training too, which is always popular and has only a set number of participants. And we're going to do it in August. We're going to do Microsoft Excel, Introduction, Intermediate and Advanced, if anybody's interested in that. So keep an eye out for that. It fills up quickly and then we go on to waiting lists. So you are the first group to have the heads up on that. And then we'll also there'll be 4 workshops. This is the big ticket training, as in most skill specific expensive training that SCPA offers. So to be able to get a day's worth of Excel training for free is, pretty cool and remarkable, because nobody usually would offer training such as that for free. We use a training company in Brisbane. They did it for us last year too, and it's really well supported. So keep your eye out for that. The announcements for that will be on Blackboard. And if you really would like to do it, get in quick. So I'll introduce Liz in a sec, like now even, and I'll put that information. I won't stay for the workshop, so forgive me for chuffing off, but I have a staff meeting in about 20 minutes, so I'll attend to that because it is Praxis Week. So I'll put those things in the chat box, so you can just copy and paste them out of the chat box and follow up on any of that. And I'll put my email address in there too. So if there's any questions you've got about Praxis or wanting to come along or other training, just email me and I'll get back to you later today. So are you happy to start now, Liz?
Yeah, I think we're right on time, and we've got a great number here. So yeah, let's get started. And just a quick reminder to those just jumping in. I know often when you join, your audio is still off and on. So just make sure you're turning that off. Thank you.
So thank you, Blessing, for clarifying that. Because I think
Yes.
you might have enrolled for in our writing for postgrads, did you as well? I might have seen your name there too. So excellent roll up for today. Tax time is obviously relevant for everyone, whether you like it to be or not. So thank you all for coming. We had great registrations and lots of people have already asked for the recording. So Liz will share the recording with me at once she has it available to her at the end of this, and then I will upload it onto our YouTube channel, and I will put the link to that in the chat box as well before I leave this morning, so you can. Southern Cross Postgrad Association has its own LinkedIn, it's not LinkedIn, YouTube channel, and we put all our training on there. So, you know, if this is the first time you might have had a look at a record or look for a recording, you'll see all the other recordings from last year as well, which, you know, you might find something in there in particular of interest to you. So thank you all for coming this morning. It is a glorious day on the Gold Coast, I have to say. Beautiful blue clear skies and about 22 degrees, which is just lovely. And I'm coming to you today from the country that I'm on, Yugambeh country. And I just ask that you all, from whatever country you're on, you might want to pop it in the chat box, but just acknowledge the country that you're on today and recognise the traditional owners of that country, past, present and future. So thank you, Liz, for hosting this session for us today. These sessions grow in popularity every time, each one that we offer. The next one will be in mid-July and is on investing. So also, you know, very relevant, and at the moment with things that are happening in our economic situation, timely as well. So thank you, Liz, for coming along today and presenting for us. I've shared lots of information with you, and I won't hold Liz up any longer, and I will put all of that into the chat, and please forgive me for leaving you, but enjoy the workshop. And if there's anything you want to follow up with Liz after the workshop, the association is also happy to support some one-on-one sessions if you felt that was something you'd like to explore. So just reach out to either Liz at the end of the presentation or to me directly on that skills@scpa.net.au email that I'm going to pop in the chat box. So that's all from me, and I will hand over to you, Liz.
Lovely. Thank you, Jodie. And lovely to see everybody connecting in and acknowledging the country from which they're joining and connecting today. That's really nice. Thank you. So welcome everybody, and yes, what a I'm really excited that so many have attended and have signed up. You know, not usually an exciting topic, but as we all know, it's one that's relevant to everybody. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to be of help to you today, taking you through some of the basic stuff to do with tax and what's going to be relevant for you for this particular financial year. So what I usually like to begin with as well is, as I've had the opportunity just in the last half an hour, just to be able to chat and connect with some of you. It's really nice to I guess, appreciate and acknowledge the incredible work that all of you are doing, the study, the breadth of study, the different fields of study that you're connecting in to this session today with. And tax is maybe something not that you're going to do on a regular basis, unless you're doing your master's in accounting, and you may have come across me if you're studying business or accounting, but I haven't heard anybody in that field today. So this is probably something that you're not used to talking about, but you know, is something that you've got to do each year, and you're here to gain some skills that can obviously help you. So I'm hoping that I can help support you with that. But amazing to connect in with and find out about all the amazing things that you're studying. Just so impressive. So some of you I have come across and met before, so it's so lovely to have you to join another financial wellbeing session. So my name is Liz McLardy. My background is, so I'm a CPA. I've been working in corporate for over 12 years, and then moved into teaching, and have been teaching at Southern Cross for about 4.5 years, teaching postgrads, undergrads, My specialty is management accounting, so I'm not a tax agent, and that's what I want to make really clear for this session today, is I'm not a tax agent and I'm not a tax expert, but I do keep up to date with tax related issues, obviously. And I'm also a financial counsellor, so I keep across what is also relevant for people individually as well in that capacity. And that's really what I'm sort of coming to you with. I'm drawing upon those skills to hopefully be of assistance to you. But what I will share with you today is really information and education. So I'm not giving anybody financial advice, tax advice. I know that you've all got burning specific questions about your particular scenarios that you would love to have answered by somebody, but it won't be me. So I can give you, what I'm going to talk about is different situations and scenarios, which I hope will really relate to your situation and you will learn something valuable from. But what I will show you is also the people and resources that you can go to if you need more expert tax advice. So that's really my background. So what we're going to do today, I guess the key thing, main message as well that I like to bring up through all of these workshops is the main purpose for them is really to help you as a group, the postgraduate group, to feel more confident financially. And the main purpose behind that is really so you can focus on the studies that you're doing, the career that you want to have, and the people and the things that you love in your life. So trying to take away some of that overwhelm and burden that often finances have. And that's why we're bringing sort of a number of different topics to you. Yeah, looking forward to meeting with you and talking through more of those in the future as well. So to get started, we've got an hour together, and it's, acknowledging again from the conversations we've already had, everybody is in quite different circumstances financially. And it's what I want to do is make sure that I've designed this to try and bring information that's going to be of most help to the majority of you, but I really appreciate that there's going to be nuances and different circumstances and situations. So for example, some people are quite early in their studies and they've got a part-time job, and it may just be about the study related expenses that's their burning question. For others, you might be more advanced, you might be a more mature age student, and you might have, you might have property investments, you might have a whole portfolio of share investments and other cryptocurrencies, and you might have a lot going on. So I'm not going to be able to talk to all of those topics, but what I wanted to try to do was bring to you information that's going to be of use to the majority of you. So I'm going to focus really on the study related things, because that's really the thing that you all have in common. But I do appreciate that there are other things that you would like me to talk. I'll try and bring in other bits and pieces just based on what I've heard in conversation prior to the session that might be helpful. But just know that I'm not going to be able to answer everybody's questions and solve all of your tax questions today, but still I hope it's going to be really valuable. So in sending out, and designing this sort of 1 hour, kind of divided into 3 sections. So I wanted to really just talk around, what is it that you can claim and get our heads around tax deductions and understanding them. What is it that you can't claim as a student as well? And then I've just got a couple of just 3 quick tips that are really important that I want to try and share with you, that's going to help you also for the next tax year and years to come as well. So not a lot of this is like really exciting. Some of it's hard to present in a really interesting way. There's a couple of examples and calculations that I'm providing, so I'm just pre-warning those people who perhaps not numbers people and feel a little bit overwhelmed by it. But I'll try and talk it through and make it as interesting as possible. It was even when I was trying to search for pictures, tax related pictures, when I was designing the slides, you can see all of them are slightly dull in color. So I tried to make them look a little bit more interesting. So it just kind of gives you a bit of an idea about people's emotions when they think about taxes. So let's get into it. So just a quick reminder, anybody who's joining the session, just make sure your audio is off, unless you're wanting to ask a question, and then feel free to pop it on and interrupt me at any point if you feel you would like to do that, or you can use the message bar as well. I'm going to have it alongside me here to try and keep track of any questions that people have as well. All right. So to begin with, before we get into the actual details of what kind of deductions that you can claim as a student, I wanted to start off with firstly, just having a thought and a moment to kind of talk through what deductions are and to remember how they function, and just kind of sort of step back from them a little bit. Most people get to tax time and they get sort of money hungry. They're like, right, what can I deduct? I want more money. I want to get a refund. But what we've got to remember is, this is one of those dull kind of slides, which is reminding everybody that, which I'm sure that you're all aware of, is that depending on what you're earning currently, you know that there's a number of different tax brackets that everybody's in, and these is the tax tables for this year, this financial year. So you can have a look at, and what you'll find, obviously depending on where you're working, or if you have a couple of jobs, that at the end of the financial year, you'll be sent out your summary statement from your employer. They will send out that summary statement for tax purposes, which will tell you what the total taxable income was that you received from them, and how much tax that you've already paid. And that's what you're going to be using when you're preparing your tax return. So this is essentially for a permanent tax resident. These are the thresholds for which you'll be spending money. But what people are mostly likely to be thinking about this time is, should I buy something now as a tax deduction? They're really motivated to spend because they're hoping that they'll get the money back. But if you spend, you might be thinking, oh, I'd really like a new laptop. I might buy a new, $2,000 laptop or whatever it is. How much of that laptop do you think that you'll actually be paying? So if you pay $2,000 for that laptop, how much is it actually going to cost you? Do you get 100% of that money back? Just checking in with everybody if anyone wants to add into the chat what their understanding of that is. It's just a good reminder. Sometimes people can get really keen to buy extra things at tax time, thinking that they're going to get lots of money back. But how much do you get back? So great, that's a good point too, Michael, particularly on the laptop, over $300. It's a depreciating asset. So absolutely, so you need to take that into consideration. So you can't just claim the full $2,000 and think that you're going to get the money back on that. It actually needs to be spread over 3 years. So the cost of the laptop would be spread over 3 years, the useful life of that asset, and then you would claim a deduction that way. So you're not going to get a cash inflow in a couple of weeks' time when you claim it. So that's an important one to think about as well. I guess the reminder here is that, and kind of the example that I was trying to provide down the bottom. So if your taxable income is between $45,000 and $120,000, so every dollar spent on a tax deductible item will earn you a saving of 37 cents. Does that matter? So that means that every dollar that you spend, you're actually going to be out of pocket 67.5 cents. So that's really important to think of, but obviously to be aware of also that there can be those items over $300 that are assets that are actually going to be a depreciating asset. So you need to treat those differently as well. Does that make sense to everybody? Yep. So what I'm wanting to start off with here is that it's really important just to remember that it's the deductions aren't, I guess that's the two golden rules there, that they're not a refund. That it's really that you're going to get some money back for them. Yes, if we can establish that there's a clear nexus or connection between that item and your income earning potential. But also that's really important to think that you need to not just be super motivated to just buy things at this time of the year, because you're still going to be spending money. And if you don't need them, it's better off that you don't spend the money and that you can then direct that money to something else. Yeah. Okay. And Mark's just asking me a question, 32.5 cents.
Yeah, that was just based on that 45 to 120,000 bracket. Is that the amount, or that was just a typo down below in the example?
Where's in the earned tax savings on it excluding? Oh yeah, so absolutely. So where it's got the 37 cents, that should be 32.5. Yes. So if you go up to the next bracket, it should be high. Absolutely. Yeah, that's correct. Correct there. So I think it's the final line there is the correct one. Okay, cool. So just kind of a high level, if you don't need it, don't just be motivated because it's tax time to spend extra money thinking that you're going to get the deduction back. That's one of the key things there. And I've kind of worked through an example here as well to kind of, I guess everybody's aware how complicated the Australian tax system can be as well, and that it's not always as straightforward as that previous example either. That, you know, there's other factors that can also impact the tax refund that you're getting. You may have offsets or rebates, depending on if you have, you pay private health insurance, if you're going to then have to pay extra as well. So I guess my key message at this first point is to be always, as I'm, you know, throughout the financial wellbeing sessions that I've run previously, is to be really mindful about the expenses that you're incurring and making sure that you're clear that you need whatever it is that you're purchasing. It has a purpose, that you're not just buying it just to get a tax refund, okay, which it's not. So getting into, which is some of these, and I really appreciate that some of these you may already be aware of, so some of them are going to be reminders to people, that please jump in if you have any further questions. But as a student, I guess the big one that everybody's asking is, you know, what are some of the self-education expenses that I can claim? And I know, of course, you're all studying, but it doesn't mean that you can all claim the cost of your study against the income you're currently earning. It's really important that you think about the income that you're currently earning and how it is connected to the study that you're doing. So I know we've got a couple of examples. So Verna, you're doing your PhD in early childhood and you're currently working in early childhood. So there's a clear connection there. Her master's degree is going to enable her to continue to work in the field and also earn money in that same field. So the study related expenses that she has, that you could then claim those as a deduction against the income that you're currently earning, that income from the childhood work that you're doing. So that's the fees, the textbooks, stationery, and again, as Michael had highlighted earlier, you know, if you've got technology like laptops, which we're all using, yes, you can claim those, but you'll need to make sure that as they're a depreciating asset, you can only claim, what essentially they're doing is they're saying, well, the expense of that laptop needs to be matched over its useful life. So laptops and technology, and obviously that's something that you would then take to a tax agent to help you. I know a number of you have been to, you know, an H&R Block or whoever's the local assistant tax agent, and that's the kind of thing that you would need to take to them. One of the other big key messages that I'll be keeping on today is how important record keeping is when you're dealing with your taxes. And obviously anything financial, if you can get yourself into a good record keeping system, it's going to be highly beneficial. But definitely at tax time, the big message is I guess we're looking here at this slide is what can you claim? And I guess the biggest message is you can only claim what you actually have evidence that you've purchased as well. So you need to have that receipt, not a faded receipt. And that's going to be a tip for the end of the session too, is make sure that you know, going forward to make your taxes and this time much easier is taking photos of receipts. You can email them to yourself and create a little tax folder. You can use the ATO Deductions app as well, which I'll talk a little bit more about at the end of the session. But really important there as well that you've got the receipt to show the evidence of that. Because if you could, even if you've just got the asset and you go to the tax agent and you say, well, I've just bought this laptop, they're not going to be able to put it through. So you've got to have the receipts for everything. Also, you can claim travel from your home or your workplace to the place of education as well. And there's different systems and approaches for which you can do that. So the ATO is going to be your best friend. Hopefully everybody can get, and I'll show you some links at the end as well of where I would recommend you have a look. But they have different approaches. Does anybody claim those fees, the travel related expenses? So there's a couple of different methods. Obviously, they increase in complexity. Some are just, there's a like a per cents per kilometre, and you can also claim the actual cost. So if you have your receipts again for petrol, but you've got to make sure that any of those are proportioned to the amount that you use your vehicle for traveling to your place of education. So if there's private usage, you need to make sure that you're not claiming that private usage. Does that make sense for everyone? Does anybody have any specific questions at this point on those items? And obviously, depending on your field of study, there can be some really specific things as well that you may need to. So if you're doing nursing, there may be particular instruments that you might need. The amount that you can claim in stationery, this is kind of an area as well. I was checking in with the ATO resources, and it does relate also to work-related deductions. People often think that, like a pot plant for their desk, or, particular things that make their study area nice, those are not deductible. It's the things that you need to be able to do the study. So if you need a specialized calculator, if you've got to have a stethoscope, if you, whatever the materials are, you can claim those, but not those other personal or private related things. Yeah. Okay, so and the key thing is for all of you thinking, well, can I claim? So your course fees you will have receipts for, so you should have had those emailed to you, or if you haven't, you could go back to student services to make sure that you've got them. If you are a domestic student and you're paying HECS, you can't claim a deduction for the repayment of your HECS that's coming out of a salary. So it's only your course fees that you're paying up front that you can claim there. And then it's, all the textbooks. And I think Mitch, you were asking about the textbooks. Was there anything specific, just looking back at, so nursing, Fumi, there may be, I know that you were definitely, again, you have that nexus and connection between, you're currently working in nursing and mental health, and you're doing a master's degree in that area. So there's the connection there. So your fees and textbooks, and if there's any work related, study related specific items that you've had to purchase, you can certainly claim those as well. The important thing to remember as well, if you are working and part of your study is perhaps work placement, and perhaps you're working, I'm just thinking there in that mental health capacity, or maybe you're working in a hospital to do some of your placement. I know that there's a lot of, like obviously masks are going to be part of that. If it was that you had to purchase those items in order to carry out that placement, you can claim those if you have the receipts. But if it's that your workplace provided them to you or reimbursed you, obviously you can't double dip and then claim those deductions as well. It has to be a pure deduction. The key thing is that it relates to the income that you're currently earning, and those deductions are then reducing that income, that taxable income, but it has to relate to the income that you're earning. So Anna, who's you're studying social work, but you're currently working in just casual retail, the course fees aren't related to where you're working at the moment. So you can't claim any of those self-education expenses to offset that income that you're earning from retail.
I have a question. I'm going to start a placement, so it'll be for the next end of the year. Mm-hmm. And then can I claim the transport fees?
So the key thing to remember is you can't claim the transport fees because it doesn't relate to your current income earning. So
even for the placement.
Even for the placement.
Okay.
So you've always got to come back to what is the income that I'm currently earning? And that's what's being taxed. So what is the income that I'm earning, and what field is it in? And then you need to look to then, what am I studying? And is that study going to then help me to continue to do my job or advance me and allow me to earn income? So it needs to be, there needs to be that nexus between those two. And then if it was the case, if there was, so I know that there are a number of you that there is that connection, that you can then claim the travel to a placement as well, because that's part of your study. If that placement is part of your study, then you can claim that the travel there as well. So if possible, when you're studying and you're getting to your advanced sort of stages, finding work in the area, I know it's not always easy and sometimes it's hard, you know, you need to keep most of your cognitive capacity to your studies, and sometimes it's just too hard to be working and studying in the same field. But obviously that's going to be ideal for claiming those deductions and getting that reduction. Yeah. Okay, lovely. So I know that many of you are working as well. And in terms of, so it's not just about whether you can claim your self-education expenses and how they obviously have to be related to the income that you're earning. But some of you will also be looking to claim some work-related deductions. Now the ATO has some really great industry guides for, you know, occupational specific information. So I would definitely encourage you to, depending on what your current work is, to go and check those out and see if they might give you some information about what are the specific things that you can claim. Obviously there's a lot, you know, tradies can claim different things to nurses, to people who are sort of more office and homebound. So really, really useful there to go and look at those. One of the key things, I guess, for people, you know, that what's been different in this last financial year to previous years is the fact that most of us have been working from home a lot more. So the ATO has continued the method of being able to claim some of those additional expenses that people are incurring from working from home. So this is different to studying at home, but if you are working also at home, that you can claim 80 cents per hour for those additional expenses. So you need to make sure that you have a way of verifying the hours that you've worked. If you have timesheets, if you have a work contract that specifies the number of hours, and you can also be able to show and prove that they were the days that you were working, you can claim that as well. So that's continuing up until the end of this financial year, but it's going to change going into the next financial year. So we're probably going to want to look out for information. So for those of us who are continuing to work from home at some times, ways to make sure that we're still going to be able to claim some of those extra expenses. It's like the electricity costs, the water costs, all those just additional things that you've had to incur as you've worked at home. There are some things that people start to kind of bundle into that area as well, and think that maybe they can claim, you know, the cost of Tim Tams or the cost of toilet paper. Those things are not deductible from a work related point of view. So even though, you know, when you went into the office, you might have been able to get the office biscuits and coffee and all of that kind of thing, you're not able to claim those when you're working from home. It's just the set 80 cents for every hour that you're working from home. Or there are two other methods as well that sort of increase in complexity again. So it would be looking at what are the specific costs you're incurring. So looking at the rent or the mortgage, and you've really got to have an office space established in your house to do that. But for most people, the 80 cents an hour is the easiest. How many of you used that last year when you were doing your tax returns? Anybody use the 80 cents an hour? So there are a few of you who are working. No one there? No. Does that sound like it'd be useful to anybody?
What? Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Erica. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I just got in, sorry. And
that's okay. I
just want to tune in because I work and I study part-time. So
yes,
this is also can be useful. I don't know. I thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you currently working?
I work at a primary school 3 days as a teacher assistant.
Okay, yes.
In Malombimbi.
Okay.
And then I study also part-time.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying a Master of Social Work.
Okay, right. So the Masters of Social Work doesn't connect to the primary teaching at the moment, or how are you seeing those fit together?
What do you mean? What do you mean? No, it's not to do with my master. This is just a job I've got.
Just a job, part-time job. Yes, sure. No, I just wanted to check in your understanding whether you thought that you could claim your self-education, so your master's degree, whether you could claim it against that income that you're earning.
No.
So no, you can't. Yes, that's correct. So so that's okay. So and the work that you've been doing at the primary school, have you had to work at home? Obviously during the lockdowns,
no, because it's only from this year. So no, I can't do that. No.
Okay, no. So that's only for people who have, perhaps they've had a workplace that they were working in, and due to lockdowns and changes due to COVID, that they're then now working at home more often. That 80 cents a day, an hour, pardon me, is relates to those people. But if it hasn't affected you and you've just continued your work and you've been going in for primary teaching, you would just be looking at, are there any costs that you incur that relate to your occupation? And I would imagine a lot of the costs you incur if you buy any, special additional learning materials, that they would be subsidized, or you would be reimbursed for those by the school. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't have to do any of that because they sort of train us, or they send us internet stuff. So that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes. So there's probably not a whole lot in terms of the work related deductions in that specific. No.
Okay.
No. And for others that I'm just bringing up some other examples. For some occupations, you may be required to have protective clothing or need sunscreen or hats or sunglasses if you're a lifeguard, or if, those kind of things can be deductions. Often employers are paying for those. So the lifeguards would have all of their uniforms given to them. So then they don't have a deduction because they didn't have to pay for them themselves. But if there are workers, there's construction workers and they've got to buy the steel cap boots, and that's protective clothing specific to that specific job, that they can then claim a deduction for the cost of those boots. So that kind of gives you an idea about those work-related deductions.
Yes.
Lovely. Just checking in the chat there. It's nice to see a couple of you did use the 80 cents an hour. So yes, you can continue to do that. Okay, lovely. So an inner working at home as a naturopath, that if you've got a home-based clinic, you can do that. But what you would probably be wanting to do for the coming financial year is make sure that you keep records of the costs associated with your home-based clinic, keeping track of your, having if you can, work out what the square meterage is of the clinic in terms of how much space, at the proportional space it takes up in contrast to the rest of your home. And then you can, with a tax agent, you could work through and identify what is the cost of that clinic that you'll be able to deduct in the future years. They won't continue with that 80 cents an hour beyond this year, they've said. So, yeah. Michael, thank you for your question too. I'm just looking back at that. So you've got 2 different jobs within the financial year. Can you claim expenses related to both occupations? So you can't double dip. So if you have 2 jobs and you have an office, and you can obviously, if you work 20 hours for one job, you can do the 80 cents an hour for that job. And then you might have another job that's 10 hours a day from a home office. You could claim the 10 hours, 80 cents an hour. You can do it that way. Does that make sense? But you can't double dip. So you couldn't say, well, I want to claim my new laptop and I'm going to do it's a depreciating asset. So I'm going to claim 1/3 of the cost of that laptop over the 3 years, but you can't do it twice for both jobs. So you've got to proportion those costs out between the 2 jobs. Are both of your jobs, Michael, from home?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Yeah, so those 2 different jobs are 2 different area. So yeah, that's why I'm asking. For example, I have a side job and then the other one is the main job. Can I claim work-related deductions for both of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got to think through. So what you're doing is you're looking at, and this is also might be helpful for those who have investment income in all different ways, is to think about, because what you're doing as you're doing your taxes is you're getting taxed on income. And you think about that particular stream of income coming from job A, job B, from my investment property A, my investment property B. So if you can try and identify each stream of income, then what you need to do is then think about, well, what are the relatable deductions that I can claim associated with that particular stream of income? So if you've got two different jobs, think about what is that job and what are some of the relevant work-related deductions that I can claim against that income. So you certainly can. But you need to think about, what are they? Is there that, connection between, is it allowable? Have I got a receipt for it? All of those things, obviously, for all of them. But yeah, you absolutely can claim for more than one job.
Yep, awesome.
Yeah,
yep,
cool, lovely.
Sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and it does sometimes help because taxes, finances, we all just get so muddled. There's so many terms, they don't make sense. You can get really overwhelmed, but just try to simplify it. And as many of you will know too, when I'm doing all of my financial wellbeing, planning and setting sessions with you, that I'm always using Excel, and I would do the same here as well for tax time. If you've got a side hustle, you've got a main job, you've got an investment property, set up an Excel spreadsheet that maybe is for each of those, or maybe you have one that has a tab for each. So you can really, keep those records nice and clear for each of those different sections. And that's going to be really helpful for you if you're going to do your tax yourself, or if you take it to a tax agent, it's going to reduce your fees. It's just going to be so much easier for them. And of course, the other key message, as I keep saying, is record keeping. Make sure you keep all of those receipts. And that might be something that some of you think, oh, damn, this year that's not going to work for me. But I would just encourage you, whatever looking to the next financial year, just take photos of your receipts. What I do is, I know a lot of people use the ATO Deductions app, but just setting up a simple folder in your emails that's the tax year, take a photo and just email it to yourself and just pop it in the folder. That's also a really easy way to keep track of it. And then you can look at all of them at the end of the year and see what's relevant, what's not. Okay, so that's some of those sort of high level items in terms of what you can claim. And I know and I acknowledge that some of you do have some of those investment questions as well, and what you can claim. But again, at this high level, I would just really encourage you to think through, what is the income that I've earned from that particular thing? So if it's a job or if it's an investment, and then think of the things that relate to that income earning. What can I claim as a deduction that relates to me earning that income? So as we move on, so just quick questions. So we're looking at, so would you be able to claim a tax deduction on these course fees? So just an example here. So we've actually got a couple of students who might be close to this. So you're a nurse completing postgraduate specialization in diabetes management, extending professional knowledge in your chosen field of nursing. This maintains your skills in your chosen field and is connected to your current income earning activities. So can you claim a tax deduction for the course fees? Thanks, Badika. Thanks, Mark. Fabulous. Yes. So the key, and the reason why I'm bringing up these questions, I know pretty straightforward, but just to make sure that some of the language is similar to what's used on the ATO website. So it's making sure that you are extending your professional knowledge in a chosen field. And it also maintains your skills and is also connected to your income earning as well. So yeah, lovely. Thank you for answering that. Our next one is, so you occasionally check emails and take calls at home. Can you claim working from home expenses? Beautiful, lovely. Thanks for answering those. So the answer is no. So blessing, you're not allowed to do that. Some people do think, oh, maybe, I do check it now and again. Couldn't I claim something for that? But no, you've got to be having, your as a regular place that you are performing your work duties. And it can't just be all that you're checking your emails on your phone now and again and you claim the cost of your phone. So anything like that as well, we've got to remember that where there's private and work use, you've got to be really able to demonstrate the split of how much you use. You know, it even goes for laptops. So if you've got your laptop for work, you've got to make sure that you use it purely for work and there's nothing else on it that you're using it for, if you're going to be claiming that full deduction. Otherwise, you need to keep timesheets or, you know, at least some sort of record in a diary to show, you know, how many times, and then you can work out a percentage based on that of how much usage is for work and then how much is for private use. Okay, great. So in terms of what you can't claim, and some of this is kind of, you know, should be quite straightforward now, having gone through what we can claim. So anything that doesn't have that sufficient connection between your current work activity. So that's a really key thing to keep in mind, is thinking through the income that you're earning in that specific role. Does it relate to your self-education expenses that you're incurring? Or does it relate to, you also have to be thinking about the, so that's to do with your self-education. If it's very general, that's going to be difficult to then have that claim as a deduction. It really needs to be quite clear. I've already shared that, you know, the HEX payment, sometimes people think that when they are repaying their HEX, that can be a deduction, but it can't be. You've already gained the benefit of having that interest-free loan and not having to have that money up front. So the government's given you that benefit already, so you can't claim it. But if you paid for your fees up front, yes, you can then claim and offset those. So I have some students who I've been working with, you know, on my sort of the one-on-one capacity in this role. And, you know, they may be in a role where they've had to upgrade some of their qualifications. So they have their own consulting business and they've just had to upgrade their qualifications to stay relevant. They pay for them up front as opposed to paying them on HEX. And then they claim them as a deduction relating to the work and the job that they do. Meryl's got a great question here. So if you've got more than one person working from home at the same time, can they both claim the 80 cents an hour? This is a really good question. And I don't know if I've got, I would say yes, because it's an extra person using extra electricity, extra water. So I would say yes, but we'd probably want to look into it. Yeah. Thanks, Badika, too, for your, but I believe that would be fair as well. It's a good one to think about the details of how this stuff works. So that's great. Usually, so in terms of your self-education expenses, it's the first $250 of those expense costs are not deductible. So this is just a rule that you'll find on the ATO website. So once you've come, you know, at the end of the year, you've tallied up all of the expenses that you've had in terms of your self-education that relates to the income you're earning, you need to take away that first $250 as it's not deductible. So individuals on student visas, so international students can't claim self-education expenses either on a student visa. So you need to look closely at the specifications and requirements on your visa to make sure that you're clear about that as well. But that's certainly something that I'd take to the tax agent and they could help you with that. You can't claim sort of your occupancy expenses. So if you're a student, you can't claim your rent or your mortgage or anything like that in terms of you studying, even studying at home, you can't do that. And you're asking about conferences and accommodation and travel. Yes, absolutely. They're all definitely things that you can claim against an income that relates to that conference. So if it's, it's you're studying Masters of Physio and you're going to a physiotherapy conference, absolutely. So if that's part of your self, and it has to be if that conference is also required as part of your study. If you're asking in terms of, if it's a work-related expense, and perhaps you have to maintain your, professional development hours, your PD hours, and some of being able to do that is going to conferences, then yes, you can claim the cost of that too, and the accommodation and travel that's associated with it as well. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Perfect. There's also claims. People often ask about income protection insurance. So if you have income protection insurance outside of your superannuation and you pay it independently of your super, you can claim that as a deduction, as a work-related deduction. But if it comes out of your superannuation, because you're already getting the benefit of it already being taxed at a lower rate coming out of that superannuation money, you can't claim it as a tax deduction. Does that make sense for everyone there as well? Yep. Okay, good. So the last, and again, I acknowledge that I'm really not covering everything and everybody's specific things, but I will have time at the end for questions if you do have them. So just to, again, so if you're a lawyer studying a Masters of Teaching, can you claim your study fees as a tax deduction? So if you're a lawyer wanting to shift and change, thanks, Badika. Thanks, Michael. No. So I know many of us may have gone through this in the last 1 to 2 years as well. You may have needed to shift careers or started to study to try and shift careers, but you may be currently still working in a particular industry, but wanting to move into another. Like this example here. So if you're a lawyer and you're wanting to then move into teaching, there's no connection between the study, the future income earning as a result of your master's and your current work as a lawyer. So obviously, no, you can't claim any of the fees, textbooks, travel, nothing to do with that study or relating to that study. So if you're completing a full-time fashion photography course and you're working as a casual sales assistant on the weekend, what do you think about those course fees? Are they going to be tax deductible? So if you're just a casual retail staff member, but you're doing a fashion photography course. Thanks, Blessing. Thanks, Badika. Anna, yeah, correct. So still no, there's not enough connection there. Some people will try to convince the tax office that there is to get their course partially paid for, but no, you're absolutely correct. And I've just included down the bottom here, not to get really super boring, but if you're wanting some of the finer details around how the ATO does make these decisions, they have taxation rulings, and they set out, particularly for this one, this is around self-education costs. And it gives you some examples as well that might be helpful resource to people as well. If you're thinking about your own circumstance and you're not sure, that can be a useful place to go. Okay, so I guess the final part of today's session is to kind of give you 3 things that I said, although I could probably give you more than that, but 3 things to do, which I know is only between now and next week. And I kind of warned you of this at the beginning of the session too. One, I guess the big thing is to get your paperwork in order, which I'm sure many of you are already trying to do. So looking back over the last year and making sure that you've got everything in order, the receipts that you can find and that you do have copies of that you think might be related, if you do have that connection between your study and the current work that you're doing and you think you might be able to deduct those expenses. You'll obviously get all of your income, your payment salaries will come through from your employer, but that won't happen until July. So you'll be starting to receive those in July, and that will have all of that information on it. If you've lodged a tax return before, all of that should be pre-populated anyway, which is great with eTax. So, and My Tax will have it all there, but it's good just to check it off that you do when you do your tax, that you check it off with the summaries that are being provided to you from your employer. So get all of that information together, any interest that you've paid for your bank accounts, bonuses, government allowances, that's all of your income information. So you might have, so the bank interest here is about interest that you've actually earned, although not many of us would if you've just got a high interest account. They've been so low lately, but anything where you've earned income, so have all of those documents ready, and then the corresponding deductions that relate to that income as well. So get all of your paperwork together. As I've already mentioned, downloading the My Deductions app, which is an ATO app, can be really useful. So you may not have used it. Does anybody use it, by the way? No. Haven't heard of it? Okay, so My Deductions is an app that you can just download from the App Store, and it's really designed to connect obviously all of your receipts and everything that you might have that you think that you have for a deduction. So I really encourage, to get you ready for the next financial year to have that app. And I completely understand the trust issues, because personally I don't use it, but so my system of taking photos and putting it in my own emails, that helps me to make sure that I've got all of my receipts in one place ready for tax time. But it does help me with those trust issues, which I know that some people can think, well, how, they have this information, what are they going to use it for? People do find it really easy though. It means that when they are filling out their tax return, that those the evidence of all of their claims are there. And then also if you're getting a tax agent to help you, that all of that information you can actually email to a tax agent as well. So you can't, I'll have a look to see. If you can't see it on the App Store, check out the ATO website, and then they have a link to it as well, the My Deductions app as well. So see how you go with that, Ina. Not sure if that might be better. So employee, just to go back to your question there, Blessing, you're asking about, so that's also another one of the tips that I've got here is, thinking about topping up your contributions. So you can contribute extra money to your super, and obviously there's benefits to that, but once it's in your super, you can't access it until retirement age. So you've got to be really sure and comfortable with that decision. But what it does is it's going to reduce your taxable income. So I couldn't answer your question about, exactly how much it's going to save, but you could put it through one of the tax calculators. So if you can look at what is your taxable income, you could probably do a comparison. So do a quick scenario. So do what's my taxable income, and then how much tax I would pay, if I don't do that extra super contribution. And then do another scenario, which is paying the extra super contribution, which will lower that taxable income. And then look at how much tax you'll pay and make a decision. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so it's a really good one to think through, but also just to be really aware that it is a long time until you need that. You can access that money. So yeah. So good to think about. Okay, Ina's just saying too with the app, is that it's part of the ATO app. Okay, so if you download the ATO My Tax app, and somebody's got their... Hang on, I think you've got your audio still on. We can just hear you talking. Did you want to ask a question?
Sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Happens to us all. So yes, okay, great. Thanks for checking that too, Ina. So yeah, to go to the ATO app, and then the My Deductions is part of that. But yeah, if you're not comfortable with it, just having a system that you can get into that's easy, that gets you really set up for next year. Record keeping is the key to taxes. You're not going to be able to claim anything that you don't have a receipt for. So just, and in a 12 months time, receipts are, you can't even read them anymore. So just take a photo of a receipt if you think it's vaguely, associated to either your self-education expenses, work-related, if you've got an investment property, and just, I find just having a folder in your emails, you've got them on your phone, just slot it into that email box, call it tax 2022, whatever you like. So you've got it all there ready, might be another way to do it. So that's really all I wanted to take you through today. I hope that that's been, I've got some additional resources before I just open up to see if there's any other questions. This was from H&R Block actually, and I'm not related or connected to any company. I'm not promoting anything. It was just that I found that it was just quite helpful. It's a little bit of a checklist. Checklists are always helpful with financial things. It seems like there's so many things going everywhere. But it was just helpful for you to think through so you don't miss anything in terms of making sure that you've got details of all your income, you've got all different details of all of your deductions there, whatever. It's kind of laid out a little bit like the e-tax form as well that you'll find. Sorry, My Tax. That's just a bit of a checklist that might be helpful. And in terms of seeking additional help, after this. I know I can't give you the specific tax advice that you would all really love. But what I would really recommend is firstly going to the ATO website, really helpful wealth of knowledge. Once you get a hang of it, they've really improved it to make it the language much more simplified and easy to work through scenarios. You can obviously contact them, although that's often quite hard. But I also wanted to share with you, which some of you may be aware of, which is called the Griffith Tax Clinic. And we're hoping that Southern Cross is going to create one of these too. And I think some of it's in the workings. But what it is it's a free clinic where students who are studying taxation are obviously supervised. So it's a little bit like the health clinics that we've seen, but it's just in the field of tax. So you can actually contact them. They have actual physical clinics that you can go to, but you can also contact them by email and phone, and you can get help and assistance that way as well. And it's completely free. So really helpful to just talk through your own situation with them. Really encourage you to do that before you even go into paying, a tax agent. That might be a really helpful first start as well. And it doesn't matter who you are, you can engage their services. So, if you're obviously you're all students, but depending on your income level, it doesn't matter. You can seek their advice, and they are obviously supervised by tax agents. So they will give you specific advice for your circumstances. So that's just through the Griffith University website. You can contact them. So sorry to give you a sort of another university's resources, but SCU is building up to have that kind of resource. We're hoping soon, which would be really great. I'm just going to go back and have a little look at some of the questions. No worries, Mitch. Glad that was helpful. You might have already gone, but thanks for that. Okay, great. Thanks, Blessing. So you were just saying that you can check etax.com. So that's a really good resource as well, just to get an idea of what impact it has when you do top up your super. So thanks for sharing that. That's lovely. Thank you. And the final note, I guess, is to also, I guess, at tax time, to not forget and enjoy and appreciate. I know that I don't want to be political at all here, and we can disagree with how tax money is used, and it can be the source of frustration for many of us, and I absolutely acknowledge that. But at the same time, there's a lot of wonderful things that we have access to as a result of the taxes that we pay, and sometimes I feel it's helpful at this time when you are going through an activity can be overwhelming and frustrating, preparing your taxes, that it can be nice to take moments to just also recognize and enjoy some of the beautiful, the public schools and hospitals, our beaches, our beautiful parks and wildlife, the services that are around as well. So maybe they're not all perfect, but we do have a lot, and we play a part of that too in the money that we earn and the tax that we pay. So it's something to be really proud of as well. So just a nice little ending positive reminder too that your tax money is really useful. And just a shout out to, if there's anything I can help you with one-on-one, please feel free to reach out. As I said, so I'm CPA and also a qualified financial counsellor, so I can sort of talk on a range of topics and help you through different things, but I'm not a tax agent. So if you need that specific tax information, please, I really encourage you. I can help you perhaps get in touch with somebody who could be helpful, but that's not my area of expertise. But I'm still hoping that this is helpful regardless. I've given you some sort of high-level tips and advice and information, but please, get in contact with Skills at SCPA if you need anything particular. Just know that I'm here to talk through anything if you need it. And thank you so much, everyone, for all your appreciation. I'm really grateful for that. Thank you. I'm glad you found it useful. Thank you for coming along. It's been great to have everyone's sort of situations in mind as well. And I wish you all the best with your studies and everything as well. And I hope that I can look forward to meeting with you next month. As Jodie mentioned, we're running we're kind of doing a session each month. So we're going to run one around investments, and obviously there will be some tax related information around your investments too. But again, I'll bring you some information about investments, what your options are, really just trying to bring you things that are going to be really helpful and useful to you as as PhD students and a master's students, you know, wanting to really dedicate a lot of your time to your career and your field of study, but money is so important. And I just want to take away the stress around money so you can really have that capacity to give yourself to obviously the things that you love. And yeah, I'm hoping that we can continue to work together doing that. Lovely, thank you. I'll just hang around if somebody wants to ask any questions of me, but otherwise enjoy the rest of your days, and I look forward to catching up with you all soon. Yes, of course, Rom.
Hello, Liz.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. My question is about the page installment that we have to pay the page installment based on the previous income.
Sorry, so what is your pay, pardon, so your base income?
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about page installment.
What is the instrument part that you're referring to, sorry? Is it to do with your income or the PAYG installments? Sorry, yes,
yeah.
yes, sure. Yeah, that's okay, no worries. PAYG, yes, okay. So this is the amounts of tax that your employer takes out of your income. They sort of make assumptions, you know, based on how much you get paid each period, how much tax that you should be paying. It's meant to help each individual to meet their tax liabilities. So they'll have that tax taken out of them throughout the year. What questions did you have about it?
Yeah, the question is about, I have like 4 installments to pay.
Okay.
According, yeah, to the previous assessment income. And what will happen if I don't pay like PAYG and later I do my tax return, and at that time I will pay according to how much tax I have to pay.
Okay, so let me just confirm if I understand. So you've earned, we're just talking about the last financial year, you've earned income, but you haven't paid the tax relating to that income yet. So you were set up to pay yours in installments, is that correct? So 4 installments, maybe it was quarterly, is that correct? But you haven't paid them yet?
Yeah, the quarterly is for like, I think they assume that we will on same money this year also.
Mm-hmm.
And they like send us the PAYG installment. You have to pay like 4 installments.
Yeah.
Like for example, we have like 45,000 taxable income.
Yes. Okay.
And suppose there was like 4,000 as a tax.
Yes.
And this year also they assume that we have like 45,000, around 45,000 income, and they send us like we have to pay like PAYG installments.
Okay.
Based on that.
Okay.
And I have paid like a tax 4,000 of before previous year, but they send us like you have to pay these installments for this year also.
Okay. So how are you self-employed? Who's paying you?
Yes, I'm self-employed.
Self-employed. Okay. So the key thing is that I guess with any income for a given financial year, as you've said, you need to know exactly how much income that you've earned. So it sounded like that they were making sort of an assumption about the previous year. So last year you earned 45 and you paid 4,000. So what they've done is to try to make it easier for you to meet that liability, that amount that you owe. They've then set up so you can pay for that tax quarterly. You can pay for the tax at the end of the year in one lump sum, but often small businesses find that difficult if they don't put the money aside. So it's really there to help you. I guess the key thing, maybe your question is it wanting to know how much tax you're going to need to pay this year?
Yeah, I was wondering that is there like I have to pay penalty if I don't pay that pays installments? Like
you either pay the installments. So what would happen is if they send you the installments based on the income of 45,000, and they say, okay, you need to pay 4,000 because you said it's 4,000 tax in a year. So we split that into the quarters. So you need to pay us $1,000 of tax each quarter. So you can either do that. What usually happens when you set up your small business is that you would opt in for either paying your tax quarterly or annually. So you can go to the tax office and request the way in which you want to pay for it. But I guess the bottom line is all they're worried about or interested in is that what they'll want you to do is show us, okay, how much did you actually earn in this financial year? So come 30th of June, you'll know exactly how much you've earned for this current financial year, and that they will then want the tax associated with that income. So that will be able to be worked out. Because what might happen is, for example, you may have under or overpaid the tax if you pay it in the installments based on an income that was for the previous year. So it's likely that it won't be exactly the same. So there will be a bit of under or overs. If you haven't paid any of the installments, I would just contact the ATO to let them know that you want to pay it at the end of the year as an annual, if that's what you would like to do, as an annual amount. And then you've got to make sure that you're putting that amount aside as you're running your business. So you've got enough for that tax liability. Does that answer your question? Does that help you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, it's a really great question to ask and to think about what works best for you. But I guess it's just stepping back from it and thinking, okay, the main thing is that I need to know how much tax I actually have to pay this year. If you've not paid, you don't need to pay the installments and the tax as well. Just choose which one you want to do and then let them know how you want to do it.
Yeah, but I have to make contact to ATO, yeah?
Yes, contact the ATO. Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Ram.
Okay, see you, bye.
Bye-bye. Hi, Erica. Did you have any questions or anything you wanted or needed from me?
Sorry, you talking to me?
Yes. Are you okay?
don't know. I was just pottering around and listening. No, I'm fine. Because
that's okay.
I mean, I can ask you something actually, but I don't know if it's your department. I work. Yes, so I've got one job, and then I do stuff on the ABN number.
Yes. So you have a job where you're an employee, and then you've also got a job with an ABN. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm worried about how are supposed to be taxed? Is that the ABN like a second job? You know how you can only have the threshold free something with the first job?
Yes.
But I don't know, how does it work with the NBN?
So I guess again, just at that high level, as you come to the end of a tax year, what's going to happen is they want to see all of the income that you've earned. So income 1 that you've earned as an employee, and then income 2 that you've earned from your ABN. Those 2 income items will need to be included in your tax return. And together that's a taxable income. So they combine them. And then they'll look at, okay, how much is that? Depending on how much it is, depends on which level of tax that you'll be taxed. In terms of the second job and do you not claim the threshold, that kind of thing, some of that is actually to help you, again, like I was mentioning with Ram, is it's a little bit about helping you support the individual meet their tax liabilities. So what it does is if you if you are having a second job, what it means is that you wouldn't have the tax-free threshold. You can't have tax-free threshold on both jobs. You get the tax-free threshold once.
Yeah, but I didn't know how to apply. And also it was only like $100 a week. It's not like
So I wouldn't worry. Yeah. So have you paid any tax on the ABN income yet?
No,
That's okay.
because that's the first year that I have a bit of that.
Yeah,
but they're little incomes, and I'm
Yeah.
paying on the other one. So
Yes.
now I'm going to declare everything and see.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and essentially, and if you're looking at, if you're thinking high level and ongoing for managing, this little side business, if you're earning $100 a week, you could make sure that you put $30 of it aside for tax. Just put it into a separate account. And then at the end of the year, you're not going to need it all, but you'll have it there. Do you know what I mean? So then you're not going to be worried about it.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So then if you just put it aside, so you take the 70 and you know that that's income, and put the 30 into another account, name it tax to do with the ABN, and then use that when it comes to tax time. Because all you'll do for this year, as you said exactly right then, you'll have your income coming in as an employee, and then you need to declare the income that's associated with that ABN, and you may need to pay a little bit of tax, but it depends on.
Because last year I was still there was a pandemic, so I just was on government allowances. I didn't have work, so that might sort of balance it out. I'm not sure.
Yes, it may do. So and the key thing always with tax is just to be honest with the situation, and then you're not going to worry. You know that you're doing the right thing. So just pop in both of the two incomes, see how much tax, if you need to pay any, they may not owe you tax, so just wait and see. But then going forward, as you're managing that income, it's probably worth just putting the tax component aside, and then you can pay for it at the end of the next financial year. You've got the money sitting there if it's needed. If it's not, then you've got that bonus there anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Yeah, but it is hard, isn't it, getting your head around all this stuff sometimes?
Well, I'm just going. And now I'm getting another second job, actually in the social welfare field.
Okay.
It's a casual job, the supervisor of foster care. So there, I guess I could just, because it's casual, I could just set it up already as a non-threshold free tax, and
so
then
and then you're not going to owe tax. That sets you up correctly. So if you're going to maintain, if it means you're going to be doing 3 jobs, you've got the current one and you're going to do this one in addition. When you do your tax declaration form, tick that you don't want the tax-free threshold, because you need to be taxed. You've already claimed it. Yeah, that's great. And hearing that, so if that work is then related to your field of study also, so you're going to be studying that you're studying the Masters of Social Work, aren't you?
Yeah, and this is like related. That's kind of work that's got to do with my study. Basically.
Yes, and then that's going to be helpful too for claiming the cost associated with that study against only that income, though. So we'd only be claimed against the income that you earn from the social work.
Yes, but what kind of expensive books and things like that?
Books, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, your textbooks, the university fees as well. I don't know if you're doing yours through HEX or if you're paying
through HEX,
yeah. So if it's paying through HEX, that's fine. But yeah, definitely your textbooks, stationery. Absolutely. Those fees.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Lovely. No problem.
Okay. Bye.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.